This happened a few months ago. I'm 35, and fishing at Lake Monroe has been my escape for years. Every weekend I looked forward to the quiet. But now I can't shake the memories of three strange encounters. On that first evening, I cast my line into the still water. The sun was going down, painting the sky in orange and pink. I felt peaceful. But then I noticed something unusual. There was an old fishing lure half buried under a log. I pulled it out and felt a chill run down my spine. Just then, I heard a faint splash, like something swimming below. It made me uneasy, but I dismissed it. I figured it was just my imagination. The next weekend, I came back. The boat glided gently on the water. I started to relax again, but then I saw a shadow darting near the surface. My heart raced. I told myself it was just a fish. I cast my line again, but that eerie feeling returned. I heard whispers swirling in the trees, soft and vague, like they were calling my name. I turned, but there was nobody there. I felt fear creeping in. Each week I returned, but it seemed to get worse. One night I met an old fisherman on the shore. He wore a tattered cap and stared at the lake. I tried to chat, but he cut me off. "This lake has stories," he said, his voice low. I tried to laugh, but he just stared at me seriously. Something about his tone made my skin crawl. Determined to shake off the weirdness, I came back again. While I fished, I spotted another shadow, closer this time. It moved quickly, almost with purpose. I felt cold, as if something was right behind me. I turned around, but it was only the trees swaying softly. I started to question my sanity. Was it just stress from work? Still, I kept checking over my shoulder, feeling like invisible eyes were watching me. Then it happened. I heard the whispers again, but this time they were clearer. They sounded like my name. My heart thundered as I froze in place. "Who's there?" I called out, but only silence answered. I felt like I was being pulled deeper into something dark. I wanted to leave, but something kept me there. That's when I saw him, standing on the shoreline, staring at me intently. I blinked, trying to understand. "Are you okay?" I asked, but he didn't respond. I felt my chest tighten. My instinct screamed that I needed to get out, but I couldn't move. It was as if the lake had trapped me in place. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. The man didn't blink. I felt the temperature drop. A scream formed in my throat, but nothing came out. I felt like I was caught between this world and another. Then, before I knew it, he turned and walked into the darkness, like he was swallowed whole. I stood there, frozen, not knowing what had just happened. Now, I can't explain it. Each time I think about going back, I feel a cold wave of dread. Those encounters still haunt me. I wish I could forget, but I can't shake the feeling that Lake Monroe still holds secrets I'm not meant to know. I hesitated for weeks. Each time the weekend rolled around, I'd feel my heart pound at the thought of facing the lake again. The memories lingered like a bad dream, but the urge to fish, the need to escape my crowded mind, eventually pulled me back. I loaded my gear, reminding myself that I was just going to fish, nothing more. The sun hung low when I arrived, casting long shadows across the dock. It felt different this time. The air was thicker, the sky a deeper shade of gray. I stepped onto the boat and pushed off, my hands trembling slightly as I grabbed my rod. Something wasn't right, but I dismissed it. I told myself I was being ridiculous. As I drifted to my favorite spot, I scanned the water, waiting for the calm to settle in. Instead, I felt a sense of dread wrap around me like a cold shroud. After a few casts, I felt that familiar prickle at the back of my neck. I looked around, half expecting to see the old fisherman again, but the shore was empty. Then I heard it, a whispering, slivering through the trees. It called my name, just like before. Panic rose up within me. I tried to focus on the fishing, blocking out the sound. Suddenly, I caught a glimpse of movement beneath the surface. A dark shape darted away, but I couldn't tell what it was. I couldn't concentrate. The lake felt like a living thing, watching me. I started to reel in my line when an enormous splash erupted nearby. My heart raced as I fumbled with the rod. I squinted, trying to make sense of what I had just seen. The water calmed again, and for a moment, I almost believed I had imagined it. Then I noticed something on the shore. Distorted shapes seemed to form among the trees, twisting and bending in unnatural ways. I rubbed my eyes, willing myself to shake off the unease. But the feeling only intensified. I turned my head to look, and that's when I saw him again. The man from before, standing among the trees. This time, he pointed directly at me. My breath hitched. I knew I should be heading back to the dock. This wasn't normal. But some force held me in place. I felt like a moth to a flame, irresistibly drawn to whatever secrets the lake was hiding. I reached for my phone, my hands shaking too much to focus. That's when I realized it was gone. I tore through my tackle box, hoping to find it, but it was useless. Panic set in. I glanced back
At the man, but he was gone. Only the darkness remained. The shadows were deeper now. I fought the urge to scream. I was entirely alone. Suddenly, the water erupted behind me. A massive wave surged toward my boat. I couldn't think. Instinct took over, and I paddled frantically, desperate to escape whatever it was rising from the depths. And then I saw it. A glint of silver broke the surface, an old fishing lure, identical to the one I had found weeks before. I reached for it instinctively, but before I could grasp it, the water beneath twisted, a dark shape surging upward. I realized with horror, I wasn't just fishing, I was being fished for. I felt the cold water splash against my face as I shot back, and the world seemed to spin. I turned towards the shore, panic coursing through me. Whatever was happening at Lake Monroe was no longer just whispers and shadows. It was more sinister. The lake held secrets, and it was time I found out what they were. But as I turned to flee, I caught sight of another figure on the shore, watching me with what looked like a knowing smile. I was about to find out just how deep the lake's mysteries ran. I fought against the panic surging through me as I spun around, desperate to get away from the figure on the shore. My hands clumsily gripped the oars, pushing against the water with all my strength. The last thing I needed was to be seen by that man again. But I couldn't shake the feeling that he knew something I didn't. The boat rocked side to side, the waves growing more intense as I approached the dock. I could barely see through the growing mist. It curled around me and made the trees look like shadows reaching for something just out of reach. I yanked the oars harder, hoping to gain speed, but the water felt like it was fighting me back. Suddenly, I caught movement in my periphery. A fish? No, something bigger. I squinted into the murky depths, heart pounding as I saw a large, dark shape following close behind. It twisted beneath the surface, something not quite right about its movements. I was being hunted. I couldn't let it catch me. Then it happened again. Another massive wave crashed against the side of the boat, sending me reeling. I lost my balance and nearly tipped over. I threw myself back towards the center. Why was the lake angry? What had I stumbled upon? As I finally neared the dock, I grasped the edge of the boat, ready to pull myself out. That's when I heard it again. A whisper, gentler this time. It came from the trees. My heart raced. I paused, looking up at the shadows, my breath freezing in my throat. Was it the same voice calling me? Was it a warning or a beckoning? Ignoring it felt impossible. I could feel the lure. It, like a song pulling me closer. But my instinct screamed at me to flee.
I stepped onto the dock and tried to steady my trembling hands. My gear was in disarray, but I shoved it all into the bag. I could deal with it later. Right now, I had to get away from this place. But just as I turned to run, a figure emerged from the fog. I froze. It wasn't the man from before. This one was younger, with a wild look in her eyes. "You shouldn't have come back," she said, her voice low and tremulous. "The lake isn't safe." "Who are you?" I stammered, taking a step back. "Jenna." Her gaze darted toward the water as if she could sense something lurking there. "I saw you out there. The shape. It follows everyone who comes back." The weight of her words settled over me like a heavy blanket. "What do you mean?" I asked, needing clarity in the fog of fear. "They call it the waker," she whispered. "It wakes when you disturb its slumber." Her eyes were wide now, every bit of her alive with urgency. "You need to leave before it wakes for you." The hairs on the back of my neck rose. I finally understood. I hadn't just returned to fish. I had awakened something. Before I could take another step, I heard a loud splash. The water erupted again, sending ripples that reached the shore. I turned to look, and that's when I saw it. A pair of dark eyes staring back at me from the depths, glistening with a hunger I could feel in my bones. I didn't know what to do. I was caught between a warning and a terror I couldn't comprehend. The lake had secrets, and they loomed closer than I'd ever imagined. I had to make a choice fast. But whatever waited below that surface wasn't going to give me the luxury of time. I couldn't move. The dark eyes seemed to penetrate my very soul, and the whisper from the trees echoed in my mind. Jenna grabbed my arm, breaking the heavy spell that frozen me in place. "Run!" she shouted, pulling me away from the dock. We sprinted along the shoreline, fear fueling our steps. The mist clung to us like a shroud. As we ran, I glanced back, half expecting to see the creature rising from the water. But the surface was disturbed only by the wind. A sense of urgency pushed me forward. I had to put distance between myself and the lake. "Why didn't you tell me?" I gasped, struggling to keep up with her pace. "What is the waker?" "It's a guardian of sorts," she said, "but not a friendly one. It gets angry when outsiders intrude. It wakes up, and no one leaves unharmed." I shivered. That heavy feeling was creeping back into my chest. "But why me?" "Because you came back," Jenna said. "Others think they can enjoy the lake without respecting what it holds. But the waker knows. It knows everything." Her words sent a chill through me. What did it know about me? I didn't feel like an intruder. I just wanted to fish, to find some peace. We stopped near a knot of trees, gasping for breath. The dense branches cast long shadows that danced ominously in the fading light. I could feel Jenna's eyes on me. "You need to understand," she urged. "You have to go. Now." "Is the waker really out there?" I asked, glancing at the lake. The way it shimmered in the dusk felt deceptive. "Yes," she whispered, eyes darting past me. "And now it's awake because of you." Before I could respond, a low growl echoed from the water's edge, chilling me to my core. Something broke the surface, the dark shape looming closer. I stepped back, but Jenna pulled me closer to the trees. "Stay quiet." I held my breath as the water rippled. The creature's head emerged, a grotesque blend of fish and something human. Its eyes seemed to glow, fixated on the spot where I stood. My heart raced, primal fear taking over. This wasn't just a tale, it was a reality. Jenna pulled me deeper into the shadows, her grip tightening. "Let's go. We can't stay here." I nodded,
But instead of moving, I found myself tearing my gaze away from the lake. What if it comes after us? It will if we linger, she said urgently. We have to move before it senses us. It's a predator, and we're its prey. We hurried through the trees, branches snagging at my clothes. I felt exposed, like we were being watched. The idea of turning around and confronting the creature made my stomach turn. I didn't want to look back. Then a branch snapped behind us, loud and shattering the silence. I froze again, dread pooling in my stomach. What was that? Jenna's eyes widened. It's coming. Run! We dashed deeper into the thicket, the low growl behind us growing louder. My feet pounded against the earth, but my lungs felt on fire. I had to survive whatever this was, to understand what I had awakened. As we ran, a thought struck me like a bolt of lightning. Maybe the lake wasn't just a danger. It held the answers I needed. But now wasn't the time to think. I needed to escape, and quickly. Just as I glanced back, a flash of glistening scales caught my eye. That's when I felt it. Something was gaining on us. I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd awakened more than just the waker. There was something else, lurking in the darkness, waiting for its moment. Chapter 2. We stumbled through the underbrush, the low growl still echoing behind us. My thoughts raced as fast as my legs. What did I wake? I had to shake off the questions, focus, just get away. Jenna was a few steps ahead, practically pulling me along. She glanced
back once, wide eyes filled with adrenaline and fear. "We need to find shelter," she yelled, her voice barely above a whisper. "Where?" I managed to ask, my breaths coming in ragged gasps. "Let's head to my aunt's cabin. It's just up the trail," she shouted, veering to the right. "We'll be safe there." I nodded and pushed myself harder, desperation lending me strength. The pavement of the dirt trail blurred in the dimming light, and my shoes slipped on the damp ground. I wanted to believe Jenna, to trust that safety lay at the end of this path. But then it hit me. What if it follows us? "It usually doesn't leave the water," Jenna replied, but there was a tremor in her voice. "At least, that's what I thought." Her uncertainty gnawed at me. We pressed on, my heart pounding louder than the growls behind us. I could almost feel the waker's anger, like a storm rolling in, consuming everything in its path. The trees began to thin out, and I saw the outline of a cabin against the twilight sky. My stomach tightened. I could only hope it would be enough to shield us. But as we neared, the door hung slightly open. "Jenna, is that how it's supposed to be?" I asked, my heart sinking. She shook her head, biting her lip. "No, it's usually locked." "Then maybe someone's still here." A low rumble, more powerful than before, came from behind us. I dared a glance back, my fear mounting. The water was now churning, sending sprays into the air. The shape under the surface was unmistakable. The waker was angry, and it had left the safety of the depths. "Get inside," Jenna shouted. I did as she said, bolting through the door and slamming it shut behind me. My eyes quickly adjusted to the dim interior. Dust floated in the slivers of fading light. Jenna moved to the window, peering out. "It shouldn't know where we are yet," she murmured, but her eyes were filled with dread. "We have a moment." I placed my back against the door, trying to catch my breath. My pulse thumped in my ears, and a part of me wanted to scream. What had I gotten myself into? Why did I come back here? "What if it can smell us?" I muttered, my voice barely above a whisper. "It won't know we're here if we don't move," Jenna said, although her voice didn't sound as convincing as I wanted it to. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed outside the cabin, as if something had slammed into the walls. My heart dropped. Had the waker found us already? "That sounded like it came from the back," Jenna said, her voice trembling. She grabbed my arm and pulled me to the other side. "We need to check." "No, we can't go out there," I protested, but she was already moving, edging toward the porch. "We might have to defend ourselves. Stay close." I was terrified, but I didn't have a choice. I followed her cautiously,
each creak of the floorboards echoing in the silence that had fallen. What did we hope to see? What were we even prepared to face? Then a soft rumble filled the air, far quieter than before. "What is that?" I asked, my stomach nodding in anticipation. "I don't know," Jenna admitted, just before a shadow moved just beyond the doorway. I realized then something was there, waiting. "Jenna, look out!" I shouted, the warning rising unbidden from my throat. But it was too late. Chapter 3. I barely managed to pull Jenna back as a shadow lunged into the cabin. My heart thundered as I turned to see a shape dart past the doorway, coming dangerously close. It wasn't the waker, but it was still too big to ignore. I felt Jenna's grip tighten on my arm. "What was that?" she whispered, her voice shaking. I didn't know. The shadow had vanished, melting back into the darkness. "I don't think it's friendly," I said. "We should—" An awful crash sounded again, this time accompanied by the splintering of wood. A second shadow appeared, larger and more menacing, and I could make out its outline from the fading light. It hesitated at the threshold, sniffing the air. "We'll have to hold the door," Jenna said, her voice steadier now. "Grab something." I scanned the room, desperate for anything I could use as a weapon. There was a rusty shovel propped against the wall. I rushed over, gripping the handle tight. "Move," Jenna urged, shoving me out of the way, just as the shadow lunged forward again, crashing against the door. It buckled but held. I grunted, pressing my back into the wood, trying to keep it closed. There wasn't much room, only enough for Jenna to shimmy in beside me. "What is it?" I panted, trying to keep my voice low while panic started to creep in again. "Just a bear," she said, but I heard the tremor in her voice. "It must have been curious about the noise. We just have to hold on until it loses interest." But the door groaned dangerously as the creature rammed into it again. Jenna slammed her shoulder into the wood, fighting against the pressure. My palms were slick against the shovel's handle. I could hardly breathe. Crack! The door shuddered as another blow connected, and splinters flew into the air. Jenna stumbled back a step, her eyes wide. "It's getting in!" I shouted, panic rising in my throat. Just then, a low growl, different from the one we heard before, cut through the air. My skin prickled. "Jenna, there's something else out there!" She turned, eyes wild, and the door buckled again. Just as I braced for the inevitable, I spotted a figure darting past the window. It wasn't the bear. It was smaller and fast, moving through the trees like a ghost. "Did you see that?" I asked, the confusion slicing through my fear. Before she could reply, the door burst open with one final shove. The bear stumbled in, instinct kicking in as it lunged for us. I swung the shovel with all my strength, connecting with its snout. The blow staggered it, and it roared in pain. "Back!" Jenna screamed, pushing me into the cabin's interior as the bear lost its footing. But I didn't have time to think. My heart raced at the sight of the shadow lurking just outside. The smaller figure slinked closer. It had to be the creature we saw, but its eyes were glowing in the half-light. I was already trembling, fear clawing at me, when I suddenly registered a terrible clarity. What if it was waiting for the bear? I mumbled, dread creeping in. "We can't stay here," Jenna yelled, grabbing my arm again. "We have to run." Just as we turned to escape, I heard the growl again, closer this time. I would have sworn it came from the direction of the thing lurking just outside. That's when I saw it. An outline just beyond the threshold, eyes glimmering like two burning coals in the dark. "Run!" Jenna shouted, her voice barely cutting through the rising chaos as I turned to flee. Chapter 4. We sprinted away from the cabin, heartbeats echoing like drums in my ears. The night air was thick and cold, but all I felt was the blazing fear that propelled us forward. I didn't know what was behind us, but every instinct told me to keep going. "Where do we go?" Jenna gasped, looking back over her shoulder. I didn't have an answer. The woods stood tall and menacing around us, a dark maze with no clear path to safety. The shadows danced between the trees, and every rustle made me jump. "We need to find a place to hide," I shouted, scanning the area. "That way," I pointed into the tangled trees, hoping they could shield us from whatever was pursuing us. We pushed through the underbrush, knees brushing against thorns and branches. Behind us, I could hear the bear's furious roars mixed with the sound of heavy footsteps. It was still following us, even after I struck it. My mind raced with a haunting thought. What about the smaller creature? Then I remembered the clearing just a little farther ahead. "Head for the clearing," I called out, setting my sights on a patch of openness that glimmered in the moonlight. As we reached the edge, we stumbled into the small space surrounded by towering trees. I collapsed onto the ground, gulping in the fresh air. Maybe we can hide," I panted. Jenna crouched beside me, darting her eyes around the clearing. "Do you think it will follow us here?" I closed my eyes, trying to listen for any signs of danger. The growling seemed to fade, but the oppressive silence that replaced it felt just as ominous. "I hope not," I managed to say. Just then, a quick movement caught my eye.
A flash of fur darted between the trees. Different from the bear, it was sleek, almost playful, but a cold jolt of fear shot through me at the sight. "Did you see that?" I asked, my voice strained. I did," Jenna stuttered, pressing closer. The creature appeared again, more distinct this time, a slender, wolf-like figure with eyes shining like silver in the dark. It stood there, watching us. I glanced at Jenna, who looked petrified. "What do we do?" she asked, barely above a whisper. "I don't know," I breathed back, holding the shovel tighter. The wolf moved forward, cautious, and I could feel my body freeze. I wanted to run, but this one didn't seem hostile. But then a sudden rustling came from behind us. We turned to see the bear, larger than ever, crashing into the clearing. It spotted us and charged, jaw open, teeth bared. "No!" I yelled as I swung the shovel again, desperate to ward it off. The wolf reacted too, leaping into the path of the bear, barking fiercely. "Get back!" Jenna screamed as dirt and leaves flew up around us. The chaos erupted in an instant. My heart thrummed wildly. Who would survive this encounter? The sight of the wolf bravely confronting the bear was surreal. I had to choose. Then it happened. The bear swerved, colliding with the wolf, and in that moment of collision, something unexpected occurred. A blinding flash illuminated the clearing, and then everything went dark. I felt my heart stop. "What just happened?" I whispered in the void, emerging back into panic's grip. Where were they? And then a shadow appeared in the dark, moving exactly like the smaller figure. "Run!" my mind screamed. But an urgent question clawed at me. What kind of world was this? As the shadows closed in, I had a sinking feeling this was just the beginning. Chapter 5. I blinked hard, trying to make sense of the silence that engulfed me. The clearing was gone, and I could barely see my own hands in front of my face. Where were Jenna and the wolf? Panic gripped me. I took a step back, and the ground felt uneven beneath my feet. Each crack of a twig sent me reeling, heart racing again. "Jenna!" I called out, voice trembling. No response, just the echo of my own voice swallowed by the darkness. It took a moment, but I noticed a faint glow ahead. I staggered towards it, desperate to find some sign of life. The glow brightened as I approached, and I realized it wasn't just light. It was more like a shimmering veil, pulsating softly like a heartbeat. Tentatively, I reached out to touch it. The moment my fingers made contact, a surge of electricity coursed through me, and the world shifted again. I was suddenly in a different place, an entirely different clearing, filled with strange, luminescent plants that pulsed with the same light as the veil. "Jenna?" I whispered again, fear creeping in. I strained my ears, hoping to catch her voice. Over here! I heard her faint cry from somewhere to my right. Relief flooded through me. I rushed in that direction, my heart racing with both joy and terror. When I found her, she was crouched next to a large rock, eyes wide. What happened? Where are we? I don't know, I replied breathlessly. But that light, it took us somewhere. Jenna nodded, still looking around. It feels different here. She stood up slowly, almost mesmerized by the glowing flora. Just as I was about to ask her what she meant, I caught another movement out of the corner of my eye. A figure emerged from the shadows, stepping into the soft light. My breath caught in my throat as I recognized the sleek wolf from before. It wasn't alone. 2 more creatures joined it, their forms resembling both wolves and something else, something ancient. Their eyes glinted in the shimmering glow, watchful and intelligent. "Stay back," I warned Jenna, gripping the shovel tighter. The first wolf stepped forward cautiously, and I felt an odd pull towards it, like it was searching for something in me. To my surprise, Jenna lowered her hands, stepping closer to the creatures with a curious gaze. "They're not threatening," she whispered. "I think they want to help." Before I could respond, the wolves began to move as if beckoning us. They circled, tails wagging, inviting us toward the center of the clearing. "Do you trust them?" I asked, my heart pounding. "They saved us from the bear, didn't they?" Jenna replied, her voice filled with wonder. I hesitated for a moment, weighing my fear against the strange connection growing between us and the creatures. Finally, I nodded. "Okay, maybe we should follow them." As we stepped forward, the atmosphere shifted again. A gust of wind blew through the clearing, carrying whispers that felt almost like a message. Then I noticed something glimmering on the forest floor, a silver pendant that looked familiar. I reached down to pick it up, my hands trembling. This is Rob's. A chill ran down my spine. Rob, my friend who had gone missing a few days ago. Suddenly, the wolves howled, a haunting sound that echoed off the trees, as if they were calling for something, or someone. "Who are you?" I asked, feeling small and frightened. The weight of everything settled in my stomach. What had I stumbled into? The wolves moved closer, and I felt a deeper sense of urgency building. And then I realized I needed to find Rob. Chapter 6. I brushed my fingers over the silver pendant again, hoping for some connection to Rob. My heart raced. No answers had come, only more questions. The wolves' howls faded into a low growl that vibrated through the ground. It felt like the earth itself was alive. "Jenna, we have to find him," I said urgently, but my voice shook. The tension in the air was thick, and I couldn't tell if it was from fear or something more profound. The wolves paused, turning their heads towards the edge of the clearing, their ears perked up. Suddenly, one of the wolves darted off into the darkness of the trees, its silhouette barely visible against the glow of the plants. The others hesitated, but then followed. My instinct screamed at me to stay close to Jenna, but curiosity tugged at me. "Should we follow them?" I asked Jenna, glancing at her. She nodded, her eyes wide with determination. With every step, the whispering wind grew louder, almost like chanting. I trailed behind the wolves, every snap of a twig cruelly magnified in the silence. Soon we reached the edge of another clearing, a smaller circle bathed in moonlight. That's when I saw it. A figure stood at the center, cloaked in shadows. At first, I thought it was just a trick of the light, but as we moved closer, the outline of a person became more defined. They were tall and thin, with long hair that cascaded over their shoulders like dark ink. "Who are you?" I called out, my voice barely rising above a whisper. The figure turned towards us, eyes glinting like the wolves. "You've come for him," they said, their voice serene and haunting, sending shivers down my spine. "What do you know about Rob?"
I demanded, my heart beating like a war drum. Everything, the figure replied, stepping into the light. I flinched at their face. It looked familiar, but distorted. It was the face of someone I recognized, someone who had been lost to me as time flowed onwards. "Jessica," I gasped. "Rob's sister, the one we thought had disappeared a long time ago." "No time for pleasantries," she said, cutting through the air like a knife. "You need to listen. He's in danger. The wolves brought you here for a reason." My mind raced, piecing together fragments of reality. Jenna looked as stunned as I felt, her mouth agape. "What do you mean?" she asked, stepping forward. "The connection between the veil and the forest is deep," Jessica explained, intensifying the strange energy that surrounded us. "But you don't have much time. If you want to save Rob, you must find the source of the light. It won't be easy, and the creatures that dwell within the darkness won't let you pass without a fight." Just then, the air thickened, and I felt an ominous presence lurking just beyond the trees. Something was watching us, ready to emerge. "Is it here?" Jenna asked, her voice trembling. Jessica's expression darkened. "You must go now. Trust the wolves. They will lead you to him. But beware, something is coming." Before I could ask more, a crushing weight settled over us, and the shadows stretched longer, creeping closer, eager to consume everything in their path. "Run!" I shouted, the urgency surging inside me. The wolves howled again, their calls now tinged with fear. We dashed back into the forest, adrenaline propelling us as we chased after the wolves, who were sprinting away. Something dark followed, lurking just out of sight. I couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. What awaited us ahead? Where was Rob? And what was the source of all this light and shadow? Each question fueled my terror. All I knew was that we had to move, fast. I stumbled through the darkness, following the glimmer of the luminous plants that beckoned me forward. Jenna was right beside me, our feet scrambling to keep pace with the wolves, whose paws barely made a sound against the ground. The oppressive weight of fear lay heavy on my chest, and with every step I was acutely aware of something watching us from the shadows. "Where are we going?" I panted, barely able to keep my voice steady. "The source of the light," one of the wolves seemed to say, though it remained a guttural sound, trailing effortlessly through the trees ahead. I had to trust it. Every instinct was urging me to keep moving. But the anxiety of uncertainty was a cloud wrapped tightly around me, growing thicker the deeper we ventured. The shadows shifted and flickered in our periphery, almost tauntingly. Jenna's breathing beside me quickened, and I could feel her fear amplifying mine. We were running blind, with no real direction. Suddenly, the lead wolf halted, ears perked up as it sniffed the air. I nearly collided with Jenna as I skidded to a stop. Fragments of motion caught my eye. The curtain of darkness parted just ahead, revealing another clearing. But this one was different. A pulsing light emanated from the heart of the grove, like a living thing. "What is that?" Jenna whispered, but I felt her instinct was to step back, away from the radiance. I couldn't look away. Drawn in, I took a tentative step towards it, feeling the warmth wash over me like a comforting embrace. "We have to see," I insisted, taking another step forward, despite the tug of fear still clenching at my gut. As we emerged into the clearing, the light began to take form. It shifted and swayed, morphing into a swirl of colors, illuminating the night sky like a dream. Here, I felt another presence, not threatening, but almost welcoming. The wolves encircled us, their watchful eyes never leaving the perimeter, as if guarding against something lurking in the unseen. In the center of the light was a shimmering pool, and it hummed with a low, resonant energy. I glanced at Jenna, her expression one of awe mixed with fear. "What now?" she asked, her voice trembling as she glanced around, half expecting something vile to spring from the shadows. "We find Rob," I murmured, feeling an odd sense of purpose taking hold. I stepped forward. The pool's surface rippled, and for a moment I thought I caught a glimpse of him. Rob, fleeting and almost translucent, surrounded by darkness. "Rob?" I called out, desperate, as I knelt beside the
pool, my fingers hovering just above its surface. In response, the water shimmered and twisted into shapes, images flickering like a film, a long-forgotten memory materializing before my eyes. "Don't touch it," Jenna hissed, but my mind was racing. I couldn't let another moment pass. "I just need to know." I didn't want to be stuck in limbo. Every instinct told me to dive in, to unleash whatever power this light held. Suddenly, the air filled with a dreadful silence, the shadows creeping closer. I sensed movement behind, felt the icy grip of darkness pulling at my heels. "No!" I shouted, and just like that, the light pulsated, driving back the encroaching gloom. The wolves howled, shaking the trees, a warning as my heart raced wildly. "Whatever that is, it wants to keep you from the light," Jenna screamed, pulling me back with a fierce grip. The pool emanated a brilliant warmth, urging me on while pulling me away from the shadows. "Rob!" I called again, desperate for an answer, but only the silence inched closer. Time was running out, and I needed to act. Drawing in a shaky breath, I plunged my hand into the shimmering pool. Coldness enveloped me, and the world spun violently. I braced myself as visions rushed in. Images of Rob trapped in a suffocating darkness, twisted, tormented, and then more shadows flickering against the haze, forming something monstrous. A figure stood behind me, a manifest of shadows pulling from the veil. It was the Waker, and it moved with a terrible grace, hungry to claim whatever trespasser dared invade its domain. "You shouldn't have come back," it seemed to hum, its voice a chilling lullaby. In that moment, I felt a surge of determination bubbling up from within. Whatever it was, I would not let it take Rob. I had to harness the light. I angled my other hand into the shimmering fusion, drawing strength and clarity, feeling it flow through me like the rivers that fed the lake outside, alive, vibrant. "Get back!" I shouted, the power igniting, filling me with confidence. The light around us vibrated, a barrier forming as I faced the Waker head-on. And just like that, in an explosion of colored light, the world shifted again. I gasped, tumbling back to reality. Disoriented, I found myself back at the lake's edge, the sun rising hesitantly on the horizon. Jenna sprawled next to me, wide-eyed. We were safe, at least for now. "What just happened?" she breathed, her chest heaving. I think we almost found him," I replied, glancing at the water cautiously. There was no Waker, no ominous shadows, but something about the lake still felt undone, unfinished. "Are we really safe?" Jenna murmured, scanning the shoreline. I looked out over the shimmering surface of Lake Monroe. I could still sense the weight of whatever dangers lingered beneath, the echoes of the stories yet told wrapping around my thoughts. I felt like I had touched something unfathomable, but whatever it was, I was left holding threads of unknowing. "I don't think we've solved anything," I replied slowly, staring at the depths, "and I still have to find Rob." As the sun crested, illuminating the lake with golden light, a shiver washed over me. The secrets of Lake Monroe were still buried deep. Questions remained, hovering just beneath the surface, waiting for someone brave enough or foolish enough to return once again.